Good morning, dear students. Let me welcome the 9th class students to this session of English 2. Dear students, we know that we have been discussing about the topic correct use of adjectives. Okay, so we have been discussing this chapter, the rules and instructions given in this chapter to us to use adjectives correctly. Besides these instructions or the rules for using adjectives correctly, we have also discussed an exercise in our previous class. In our previous class, we discussed exercise 7 part 1. And today, we will discuss exercise 7 part 2 and 3. Here we will discuss exercise 7 part 2 and part 3 of the same exercise. And before discussing the exercise today, let's have a little concentration for that. For concentration, please sit Siddha with Dhyan Mudra and have Brahmanath. Okay? Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Relax. Dear students, as you know, in our previous class, our discussion was about exercise 7 part 1. And in that exercise, we have discussed several things to make the answers. We discussed the use of how we can use letter LATER and LATTER. Similarly, we understood how to use older and elder, how to use oldest and eldest, how to use latest and last, how to use a little, a few. Similarly, we also understood how to and when to use little, a little, few, a few, etc. in our previous class. And today, when we are going to discuss about part 2, we have to understand more things about the correct use of adjectives. But based on the rules we understood earlier for the correct use of adjectives. And to understand the part 2 and first, let's write something on this board so that we can better understand. Okay? Let me write on the board. Dear students, I have written the part 2 of exercise 7. Some of the sentences given over here with blank spaces. What the instruction is given to do with this? You see, supply the proper form of comparative or superlative. Supply the proper form of comparative either or superlative of the given adjectives. So we have given some adjectives and we have to either use the comparative degree of them or the superlative degree of the adjectives given in the blank spaces. You see, we have given some adjectives over here like such. Here in the first sentence, the adjective is given good. What it says? You see, how is your brother today? How is your brother today? Is he best? Is he? We are comparing previous day and today's the health of the brother. So here, is he better? Because our adjective is good, therefore we have used better as a comparative degree. Understand? So similarly you see, next sentence has the hot. Okay, so this is the adjective. So what we will do? May is dash here than any other month. So we are comparing May with the other months of the year. So when we are comparing, we have to use the comparative degree. So what we can do? We can use hotter. We can write more hot as well. May is hotter than any other month. Okay? May is hotter here than any other month. So also number 3, you see the adjective is given pretty. Her doll is dash yours. So your doll and her doll is being compared over here. So when we are comparing, we have to use the comparative degree of this adjective given. Prettier. Prettier. Her doll is prettier than yours. Okay? So prettier to yours, prettier than yours. Also we can write. Here you can write prettier than yours. Understand? So her doll is prettier than yours. So here pretty is a comparative degree is pretty. So similarly number 4, idle. Idle you see. Hari is the best boy in our class. As you know, when we are using a superlative degree, these used before that. So here what we will do? Most idle. Understand? So idlest also you can write most idle. We can write like this. So Hari is the most idle boy in our class. Idlest also we can use the superlative degree. So similarly sharp. Sharp you know, sharp is the adjective. Your knife is sharp. But mine is sharper. We are comparing with your knife and my knife. So here we can use sharper. Sharper. Your knife is sharp, but mine is sharper. Understand? So similarly, next comes to the number 6. What it says? Dear is the adjective. So honor is dash to him, then like. Like and honor is being compared. So what you will dearer? D-E-A-R-E-R. Dearer. Honor is dearer to him. Dearer to him than life. So we are comparing with life and honor. So we have used the comparative degree of dear over here. Understood? So also there are several other such sentences in exercise 7 too. Let's write and discuss clearly. You understood this? Clear? Okay, very good. Dear students, I have already written some other statements available in exercise 7 part 2, where we will use the comparative or the superlative degree of the given adjectives. You see, here in the 7th statement, the adjective is given great. Who is the dash living point? So we know before superlative degrees often these used. So what we will say? What we will write? Who is the greatest? Who is the greatest living poet? Who is the greatest living poet? Okay. So because here we have used the superlative degree. Similarly, next number 8 is useful. Iron is the dash of all materials. Useful. So we can use the most useful. Most useful. Iron is the most useful of all metals. Iron is the most useful of all metals. You understood this? So similarly, next number 9 is rich. R-I-C-S. Rich. So he is the dash man in our town. So as it is also used the article the, so we have to use the superlative degree. So rich as the superlative is the richest. He is the richest man in our town. He is the richest man in our town. Understand? So similarly, next comes good. So we have to use the superlative degree of the adjective good. He is the best friend. Good, better and best. Understand? So the superlative is the best friend I have. So similarly, bad. Bad. He is the best boy of the two. Between these two, we are not comparing, we are finding the superlative. The superlative degree of best. So what we will do? Bad, superlative degree of the adjective bad. So what we will do? He is the worst. W-R-S-T. Bad, worst. So he is the worst boy of the two. Understand? So similarly, tall. Next, number 12 is tall. So she is the dash of the two sisters. The superlative. Here also we will use he is the tallest. She is the tallest of the two sisters. Okay? Similarly, dry. Rajasthan is the driest. Okay? So, Rajasthan is the driest. Driest place. The driest part of India. Okay? Rajasthan is the driest part of India. Okay? Rajasthan is the driest part of India. You see, here we have written two sentences. You see, he is the best friend I have. Then we have written here worst, thinking this is the superlative degree. But here we see sometimes we can have the comparison between the two sisters or two boys. When we think it is a comparison, in that case we cannot use the superlative degree. We have to use the comparative degree. Here also, instead of using, because here we are comparing two sisters, then we cannot use superlative degree. We can use comparative degree over here. And that what we can do. What is this? Bad means this can be worse. W-R-S-E, worse. He is the worst boy of the bad, worst. We are not making superlative degree. Here we are comparing between the two boys. Therefore, we can use the comparative degree. Understand? So similarly, here the tall, she is the dash of the two sisters. Here we are comparing. We are not talking about the superlative degree. Then here when we compare between two, we can use comparative degree. Despite here is the article the used. Despite the fact that the article the is used over here, we cannot use the superlative degree because here we are comparing between two boys and two sisters. Therefore, we can use over here the taller. So he is the worst boy of the two. She is the taller of the two sisters. Here we are comparing between two boys and two sisters. And still we have used article the before that. Because here if we think of comparison, we are not talking about the superlative degrees. Still then we have used the article before them in accordance to the rule. So similarly, you see, you understood Rajasthan is the driest place part of India. Similarly, useful. Next is useful. Iron is less than any other metal. You see, any other metal I compare with the iron. So what we will do? What we are doing? What we will do? Whether we will use the comparative degree or the superlative degree over here. Can you guess? Can you guess this? Okay. Iron is less than any other metal. Please tell me, what do you understand this? Whether you make it a comparison or you want to use the superlative degree over here. Okay, what you will write? So here we are comparing. We are comparing iron with any other metal. So we can use the comparative degree over here. What we will do? Useful is here. So we can write it more useful. More useful. Iron is the more useful than any other metal. So similarly, number 15, old. Manu is 2 years dash than Missa. Here also we are comparing. Missa's age and Manu's age we are comparing. So what we can say? Again, both are not of the same family. Remember, had it been the same family, we can have used elder. But here the adjective is given old. So we can use older. Manu is 2 years older than Missa. You understood that here are some of the adjectives given, and with these adjectives we have used their comparative degree or the superlative degree in the spaces given in our statements of exercise 7 part 2. Understood? Any doubt? If you have any doubt that can be clarified in your doubt clearance classes, or personally you can call to me so that we can clarify every doubt. Okay? Let's discuss part 3 of exercise 7. Okay? Dear students, now let's discuss about part 3 of exercise 7. Okay? Previously, we did discuss part 2 of exercise 7, where several adjectives were given, and we had to use the comparative and superlative degree of those adjectives given in those blank spaces in part 2. Here in part 3, here some instruction given to us. Let's understand that at first. Supply appropriate comparative or superlative. Supply appropriate comparative or superlative degrees to each of the following. So we have some following sentences given with blank spaces where we have to use either the comparative degree or a superlative degree of an adjective. Previously in exercise 2, part 2 of exercise 7, some adjectives were given to us and we used their comparatives and superlative degrees in the blank spaces. But here, no such adjectives given. We have to think an adjective and write their superlative or the comparative degrees in the blank spaces in accordance to these rules we understood earlier. Okay, here you see prevention is dash than Q. So here we are talking about prevention and Q, we are comparing. So when we are comparing, what adjective we can do over here is we can say normal adjective you can take, good, or the comparative degree of good. Then we can use the better. Prevention is better than cure. Understand? So we have compared cure and prevention. We have used a comparative degree over here. Next you see, London is the best city in the world. We are comparing all the cities in the world with London. So what do you can say? The richest city, the most beautiful city, okay, the most advanced city, the largest city also we can say. So any such adjectives we can use that comes to our mind, that should be meaningful over here. So what you can say? London is the richest city, okay, or the most beautiful city, or the largest city in the world. Understand? So we have used here the superlative degree. Similarly, next, the pen is dash than the sword. Here we are comparing with the pen with the sword. So when we are comparing, we must use a comparative degree. So here we can use the power, the might. So here we can say the pen is more powerful than the sword. We can use. So we can also use the pen is mightier than the sword. Mightier. Might means powerful. Mightier than. The pen is mightier than the sword. And still more powerful than the sword. We can also write. See here, number 4. The dash buildings are found in America. Dash buildings means you can say beautiful, you can say the height, you can say the what you can say tallest and still. So when we are talking about distance, we are distinguishing the buildings of America with other buildings. So here we can say the tallest buildings, or we can say the most beautiful buildings, or we can say the richest buildings, and still, so the tallest buildings are found in America, or we can say the most beautiful buildings are found in America as well. So similarly, number 5 you can come. My uncle is dash than my father. My father and my uncle both are compared. So how can we compare? What adjective we can take? We can take the talent. We can compare with the intelligence. We can compare with the handsome, more talent, or more intelligent. We can compare like this. So my uncle is taller than my father. We can say my uncle is more intelligent than my father. My uncle is more handsome than my father. We can also use some other adjectives to compare between my uncle and my father. Okay? So similarly, come to the next. Wordsworth is dash poet than Cowper. So here we are comparing with the Wordsworth and the Cowper. So what adjective we will take to compare between? We can renowned, that means more renowned, more famous. Okay, so Wordsworth is more famous than Cowper. So Wordsworth is more famous poet than Cowper. We can write like this. Okay, we can also write Wordsworth is more prominent poet than Cowper. We can write Wordsworth is more known poet than the Cowper. We can use any adjective to compare between Wordsworth and Cowper. Similarly, number 7 you see, the streets of Chandigarh. The streets of Chandigarh. Chandigarh has many streets and are dash than those of Ambala. Ambala's streets and Chandigarh's streets we are comparing. So what adjective we will take to compare between? We can say the length, the width, and the cleanliness. So all those adjectives we can take to compare between the streets of Chandigarh and the streets of Ambala. So what we can do? The streets of Chandigarh are more beautiful than those of Ambala. So the streets of Chandigarh are wider than the streets of Ambala. Okay? So the streets of Chandigarh are longer than the streets of Ambala. Understand? Clear? So here we have compared between the streets of Ambala and the streets of Chandigarh with taking a certain adjective to have the comparison like longer, shorter, wider, narrower, all those adjectives we can use to have the comparison between the streets of Chandigarh and the streets of Ambala. Instead, also see the next. Mount Everest, everybody knows Mount Everest is the dash peak of Himalayas. Himalayas, the mountain range, has lot of peaks. Among all those peaks, the Everest is the highest, you can say. We are talking about the height. We are comparing with the Mount Everest with the other peaks in Himalayas. So we can say Mount Everest is the highest peak of the Himalayas. The highest, H-I-G-H-E-S-T, Mount Everest is the highest peak of the Himalayas. Understand? So you understood that how we have used comparative and superlative degrees of different adjectives to compare and to show the superlative and comparative between two things, two persons, two towns, two similar, as we have discussed, streets. We compare and we also expressed the superlative degree of some items, just like Mount Everest is the highest peak in the Himalayas. Okay, so besides these statements, we have some other statements still available under this exercise 7 part 3. Let's write and discuss them. Did you understand this? Okay, clear? If any doubts, you can clarify. I'm sure, but that you will not have any doubt after understanding this. Okay, clear? Let's write and understand the other statements available in this part 3 of exercise 7. Here are some other statements of exercise 7 part 3. So like 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 and 15. We have already discussed up to 8 in the previous discussion. That means before this. Okay. So here let's see. You understood that we will use the superlative or comparative degrees in the blank spaces. But the adjectives have not been given to us. We have to just assume, just think what should be the adjective and what comparative degree of 8 or superlative degree of 8 we have to use in the spaces given, as we know this. So here you see the 9th sentence. He writes a dash hand than his brother. So here we are talking about his brother and their handwritings. So we can write, we are comparing between them. We can write the better. He writes a better hand than his brother. Understand? Okay? So because we took good as the adjective and we have used the comparative degree of good to compare between the handwritings between he and his brother. Similarly, number 10, he writes the dash hand in the class. We are here comparing with he with all those students available in the class. So in that case, what we will do? We can use the superlative degree here. He writes the best hand in the class. This can be correct. Here we have used the superlative degree of good because we want to express that his handwriting is the best among all the students in the classroom. So he writes the best hand in the class. Okay? So similarly, number 11. The Arabian Nights is a storybook. Instead, the Arabian Nights is perhaps the dash story book. Okay, so here to talk about the story, we can say the highest selling. That means the most famous. We can also use with the superlative degree. Okay, the most famous, most known, most purchased. most what you can say, most sold. Understand? So here we can use any such adjective, but the superlative degree, here we have used the thing. The Arabian Night is perhaps the most popular storybook. Okay, the Arabian Nights is the most popular storybook, most well known, the highest selling and story book. Here we have given the superlative degree because we are comparing with all other story books with the Arabian Night, which is in superlative. Similarly, Shakespeare is less than any other English poet. Okay, most you can say the most is Shakespeare is the. We are comparing then any other English poet. We are comparing Shakespeare with any other poets of his contemporary age, of his time. So here we have to use the comparative degree. So Shakespeare is more popular, or you can say more famous, more well known, more advanced, more intelligent, and so Shakespeare is more popular than any other English poets. We can say, okay, here is the more popular, understand? Or we can say, we can take the words like great. So here instead of more popular, we can write the greater. Shakespeare is the greater than any other English poets. Understand? So we can use any such adjectives and their degrees, the comparative degrees. Understand? So similarly, you see, all the countries in the world, China has the dash population in the world. Here we can say the number of population we are comparing. Here we can say the highest population of all the countries. China has the highest population in the world. Of all the countries, China has the highest population in the world. You understood? Understanding? Very good. Similarly, number 14 you see. Clouds float in the sky. Normally clouds float in the sky, we know. Clouds float in the sky because they are dash than the air. Because they are the dash than the air. We are comparing between clouds and the air. So we have to use a comparative degree. That means its weight, its weightness. So when something has less weight, we say light. We take light food at night in our dinner. Light food means what? Less food. That means less weight. That means here we can use lighter. Clouds float in the sky because they are lighter than the air. Understand? Clear? So similarly, number 15 you see. There are two ways of doing the sum. Doing the sum means doing the calculation. There are two ways. So, but this one is we are comparing between two formulas for this calculation, for this sum. But this one is we can say easier. This one is easier. Understand? This one is simpler. Understood? So, what happens? We are comparing over here. Therefore, we have used a comparative degree. Easier or simpler. Also, we can use over here. Understand? Or we can say better. Suppose we will take good as the adjective. So here there are two ways of doing the song, but this one is the better. This one is the easier. This one is the what you can say, the simpler. Understand? So there are many ways we have to write a degree with its comparative comparative degree while we are comparing between two. Understand? So dear students, today we did discuss the exercise 7 part 2 and part 3. In our previous video, we did discuss about the part 1 of exercise 7. I am sure in the today's discussion, you have understood the use of superlative and comparative degrees used in blank spaces. When we are talking about, when we are comparing, we use comparative degrees. When we talk about a single thing which is which is more superior than others, then we use the superlative degrees in the blank spaces. And I am sure from these discussions you understood. If any misunderstandings, you can clarify them in the doubt clearance classes, as well as you can personally communicate so that you can clarify all your doubts. And in the next class, we will discuss part 4 of exercise 7. Now, while discussing part 4 of exercise 7, we will again recall the rules, whatever we have understood for the correct use of adjectives. And for today, only this much. Wish you all the best.